So uh, for today, because I'm not. She was speaking in the 90s. I'm speaking for today.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery is the foundation of all stuff that's messed up. We know that. But what would you say had a greater effect on on the declining of the black family? Slavery or like the Jim Crow welfare system that happened?
Um, this is actually something I touch on in my book, and I get hammered a lot when I make this statement, but I still stand by this statement because it's what my research has led me to.
What's going on, family? I'm just here to remind you that you can get yourself a copy of my new book, On the Shoulders of Giants, Volume 4, The Caribbean, by visiting my website, www.ontheshoulders1.com, and help support me as I continue on my mission to make sure that my people have our information, even though, there are many people trying to stop us from learning our history. But hey, we can teach ourselves. And one of the tools we can use is my new book, On the Shoulders of Giants, Volume 4, The Caribbean. Remember, visit my website, www.ontheshoulders1.com, to get your copy. And I appreciate your support.
What's up, family? What it is, what it looked like, what it used to be. We are back. You already know what it is. When you see me and Pat, we here for another breakdown. We're taking the information from our master teachers, our scholars, and we are breaking the information down. We're making sure we understand the information, and then we're using our minds to come up with solutions of the best ways to use this information to improve our overall situation, because we keep talking about we don't like our situation. So we need to be able to do something to change it. So we believe that our master teachers, our scholars, our elders have done a great job of giving us the information, but it's on us to use the information. So this is us doing our best to use this information. I'm Joseph Ward. He's Patrick Irvin. And this is On the Shoulders of Giants. If this is your first time tuning in to anything on the Shoulders of Giants, welcome. I appreciate you. I want to give a shout out and salute to everybody who has been supporting me, all my long-time subscribers, all my new subscribers, everybody who's on this channel, all the viewers who are supporting this channel. Thank you, thank you, thank you. We're growing and we're going. Thank you. I like to thank my three new patrons. I'm just letting you know right now. I'm finna butcher your names. Just I apologize. But I love y'all, but I apologize. Shalina Paradis. I'm sorry, Shalina. I love you. Thank you. Sylvester N. Leader. Thank you, Sylvester. And Patrick Ejiri. I just messed up. I'm sorry, Patrick. I messed that up. I'm so sorry, but I appreciate you too. I appreciate everybody who, all my new patrons and everybody who's supporting the platform. And you can go to the website www.ontheshoulders1.com to see more of what we have going on. To also support me there, you can become a patron at patreon.com/OTSOG. You can hit the super like button up under this video, all those things. And Cash App and all that stuff is in the description. My man Patrick right here. Bam, this is his book, The Chasm. The Chasm. Tell him about your book, Pat.
The Chasm. It's available on Amazon. Go to Amazon,
Link
type
in
in
bio.
The Chasm by Patrick Irvin, and it'll come up. And it's a book basically letting people know the historical causes of the drift that black men and black women have been dealing with, and how we can solve those problems, some solutions to those problems. It's meant to be an introductory book, give you different areas of things that you can go and research on your own. But yeah,
Yep.
go get that from Amazon and support your boy.
Get your copy. Link in bio. I mean, link in description. Excuse me. This ain't Instagram. Link in description. Link is in description. So shout out to everybody. Shout out to the homie Professor Carl Tone Jones in the IDP Expressions Network. That link is in the bio as well. Make sure you go check out his channel, subscribe to his channel. A lot of good content that he's producing over there. To all the homies and everybody who's doing it in. Shout out to everybody who's whatever platform you are, making sure we getting our information out. So I would say let's go ahead and get to it. You know what it is. Me and Pat together, we're doing these breakdowns. Today we're breaking down Sister Shahrazad Ali. and we're talking about the issues or the relational issues within the Black community. And of course, we're going to identify the issue and then come up with solutions for the issues. So since this clip isn't that long, we're going to play the whole clip and then we're going to come back and chop it up. So let's do this. Here you go, doing what he do. Let's try that again.
Shahrazad, there are a lot of women out there who think you don't like us, you don't like black women.
Oh, yes, I do. I love black women. I'm a black woman myself, and I got 5 daughters and 4 sisters, so that would, be ridiculous of anybody to assume that. As I said, we have just never had anybody challenge us on our behavior. We've never had anybody to say, well, let's look at what we do. We know what he does, and he's wrong in a lot of what he does. But his wrongness, his guilt, does not ensure our innocence. We have a share in the problems that we have in the black community. And just because we are dressed up and have a job does not mean that we don't practice some aberrant behaviors that end up infecting our homes and breaking up our relationships with our men and helping to hold him down. That's all I'm saying. So everyone can look at themselves. Every man can look at his own woman. Everyone must study what slavery did to the black woman. We have never looked at it as an independent study.
May I ask you, on what do you base your information?
Just research. Being a black woman myself, living here in the country, and I interviewed over 3,000 people. I interviewed 379 black men who were married to or dating white women, over 100 black women who were married to or dating white men, and a little over 2,000 black men and over 1,000 black women. And what I found is that we don't have a control group. There was no point in me listing all of their names because we don't have one set of Negroes that we could point at and say, okay, well, this particular group is not affected by slavery. All of us are affected by it. We just have not been able to identify the manifestation of that behavior and be able to trace it back to what the root was and how we got that way. A lot of the behavior we practice because it's trendy, it's popular in this country, and so we think that that's just the thing to do.
Do you fault the black man for anything?
Yes, absolutely.
Briefly,
I fought
what?
him for lying.
For lying?
Yes.
About?
All kinds of things. He won't tell us the truth about his life because he knows that we can't handle the truth. And so he will lie to us about his activities and his life because it preserves the peace for him, he thinks. But we know that lies don't build a relationship. They create doubt, suspicion, and fear. And then we exhibit those behavior traits. And fear in the female is always translated as hostility. And so, see, it's a locked-in circle that I'm trying to get us to look at, how these things are connected and what they produce.
All right. So before we get started, I do want to say that this information and these breakdowns are for people who actually want to fix things, for like-minded individuals who want to fix things. We know this information ain't for everybody. This channel ain't for everybody. It's all good, but it's for people who are on the same page as us that want to fix things. So this who we doing this for. This why we here. So I'm gonna play it back, and we're gonna get with our breakdown. So
Shahrazad, there are a lot of women out there who think you don't like us, you don't like black women.
Oh, yes, I do. I
want to stop right there. Because yeah, it started off like that, start off good. The idea of Sister Shahrazad Ali not liking black women because she put out a book, The Black Man's Guide to the Black Woman, and she put out the other book, The Black Woman's Guide to the Black Man, basically critiquing the behavior of black women, analyzing the behavior of black women, analyzing what happened to black women and how that is translating to how the black woman is relating to the black man. She put that book out in the early 1990s and was met with a lot of resistance. She was met with a good number of support, but met with a lot of resistance. So that's why, and so that's the backstory for a lot of people who don't know. So that's why the lady in the interview is asking her, do you hate black women? Because there are a lot of black women who just did not agree with what she was saying at the time. And there's still a lot of black women who don't agree with what she's saying now, but her information is more relevant. So looking at all this stuff that you see on YouTube, a lot of this stuff that you see black men and black women talking about with relationships and things, in the relationships in a positive manner, I'll say that for what I'm about to say. She's the foundation for people who are talking about the relationship, who are in the relationship lane, who actually genuinely want to fix things. Not the people who just trying to make money and things, but people who genuinely want to fix things. She's the foundation of that. So they're asking her, do you hate black women because you're critiquing black women? And That's interesting. And that's
Mm-hmm.
interesting to me because the defenses come up immediately. The defenses come up, and I get, the idea is I'm being attacked when it's a critique. But when you're not used to being critiqued, and that's what she's getting into, when you're not used to being critiqued, it's always going to feel like an attack. When you can't tell the princess what she cannot have. You can't make you can't make a woman into a princess. You can't princess her up her whole life. Then one day come back and then hold the mirror up and say, "Hey, this is what happened." And I'm not saying black women were given that princess treatment, but what I am saying is exactly what she was saying. Black men were critiqued, but black women at that time were not critiqued. And she was the first one to really step out on that large scale to actually critique the behavior of black women. And she got met with a lot of resistance. What you say?
No, I agree. I think it's because it's one of them things where it was very much bad faith. Bad. It was seen as bad to critique black women in public. The critiques of black men in public, we don't have to get into that. That's well known and well
It's normal.
documented. Right, and not just black women were critiquing black men in public. Black men
Everybody.
were also critiquing
Yeah,
black
every
men in
black men
public.
were getting
White
critiqued by
men,
black
white
women.
women,
Yeah,
everybody.
everybody.
Right,
Yeah.
everybody was critiquing black men in public. But when it was time to critique the other half of the community, public or private, it was taboo. And the immediate response, even to this day, for large segments of the community, is you must hate black women, you must hate your mother, you must hate this, you must hate that, you must hate this. And so that's one of those things that we're still to this day dealing with. And what I love about her message is it's like it's one of saying, look, if we want to fix this, we got to recognize that we're both two parts of the same community, and both of us have enough blame, and there's enough blame to go around. Both of us have enough
Yeah.
faults and enough things that we need to address,
Right.
and it's not going to get better unless we do that.
Right. Yeah. We have to really take an honest assessment of the behaviors right now in 2022. Assess the behaviors of black men and black women. The behavioral patterns that we have, are they conducive to us thriving as individuals and as a group, or are they conducive to us degrading as individuals and as a group? Take that and be honest when you're asking that, because if you're honest, you're gonna have to say, well, the behaviors are actually leading to the degradation of us, especially as a group. Now, that doesn't mean that you as an individual, you have inappropriate behavior or inappropriate behavior, rather. That doesn't mean that you do, but it does mean that you are a part of a larger group, that overall the behavior from enough people is so bad that it's affecting all of us. And we can see that when we look at how we relate, or the lack of relating that we have with each other outside of sex. When it comes to, and she even, Sister Shahrazad Ali talks about it all the time. Most of the time when black people are getting along is when we having sex. Most of the time when we're going to spend around each other, we're not having sex. So can we relate to each other outside the bedroom? And right now the answer in mass is no. So
Right.
we got to fix that.
And the challenge becomes, for a lot of people that talk about this, the perception versus the reality.
Right.
And while it may be true that the majority of black people don't have problems relating to each other, we're talking about across gender lines, male to female and female to male, and not just in romantic relationships, but even in our platonic relationships. Um, the while that might be the true reality, that the majority of us don't have these issues, the perception is that we do. And we all operate in this realm of perception. We all operate with this notion that what's presented to us is in fact the truth. So then it becomes critical for us, that would be considered the silent majority, to become the loud majority and to
Right.
correct those narratives that are broken. And that's one
Right.
thing that we definitely need to stand up and do with a lot more force. If we see a
Correct
narrative that's
narratives.
broken, we need to stand up as a group and say that narrative's not accurate. All black
Right.
women aren't gold diggers and blah 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 blah. All black men aren't abusive and blah 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 blah. But those things have to be addressed by the community, because what ends up happening is when people start to believe something is the truth, they start to move like it is the truth,
Yep.
and then it
Yep.
becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. It
Yep.
becomes the truth.
Yep. So now I would argue that it is not the majority of us. And the only reason I would argue that is looking at the results and the statistics and the results, seeing that only 30% of us are married, and
Mm-hmm.
seeing that 70 to 80% of the children are being born out of wedlock. And then being able to see all the disparities that come from that. And so that's why I would argue that it does affect. It might not. It might not be you exactly, but you are affected directly or indirectly by
No, no,
the way
no.
we
We're not
moving.
we're not disagreeing. Um, what I'm saying is, if you're one of those people that think, well, the majority of us don't have these problems, it's just a perception issue. That
Right.
perception issue still manifests itself in terms of real world changes in behavior, even amongst those of you that don't believe that this is real, because it's what you see every
Right.
day. I forget what it's called. It becomes a bias, you know,
Right. Right.
underpinned bias.
Right. But what I'm saying, and I'm with you, and like
Okay.
you're saying, we're supporting each other. But I'm just saying for the listeners, that's what I'm saying. The argument, and I would push back for those who would think like that, is because the results we have measured results, and looking at these measured results, so you can tell us how you feel and what you believe all day, but we got measured results, and these measured results are telling us that things are degrading. So, but yeah,
True.
off the top rope, tag team. Let's see,
I'm a black woman. I'm a black woman myself, and I got 5 daughters and 4 sisters. So that would, be ridiculous of anybody to assume that. As I said, we have just never had anybody challenge us on our behavior. We've never had anybody to say, well, let's look at what we do. We know what he does, and he's wrong in a lot of what he does. But his wrongness, his guilt, does not ensure our innocence. We have a share in the problems that we have in the black community. And just because we are dressed up and have a job does not mean that we don't practice some aberrant behaviors that end up infecting our homes and breaking up our relationships with our men and helping to hold him down. That's all I'm saying. So everyone can look at themselves. Every man.
so that last part, because I'm get to everything else she said, but that last part too, everybody looking at themselves. Um, and us being honest as men too, how we have contributed to things that's going on, but in the context of what she's talking about, being able to really take that critical look, really be honest, really put things on the table. Once again, for those who want to change things, who really serious about changing things, putting it on the table and looking at our behavior overall. Like really looking at our behavior and looking at the quality of the relationships that we have. Everybody's cutting everybody off, whether the relationship is romantic or not. Everybody's cutting everybody off. There's a lack of respect for each other. Black right now, there's a number of black women who don't respect black men, and right now there's a number of black men who don't respect black women. Really thinking about it, really, and not just you can take into account the anecdotal experiences, but looking at the larger numbers and looking at the larger picture, like really going and doing your research and seeing exactly how we are relating to each other. I like when Dr. Claude Anderson talks about racism being a team sport, right?
Absolutely.
And so, since racism is a team sport, right now we're the little giants in the first half because nobody wants to play their part. Nobody wants to play their position. We're the football team where everybody think they the star and nobody want to block.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody want to get dirty, and the translation of the analogy is nobody want to do the dirty work of saying, yes, I contributed to the mess. I contributed to the mess. Yes, I played a part in this mess, and it's time for me to fix what I have to fix for myself, what I can fix, and then relate better, exist better, think better, walk better, talk better. Stop just doing what we're doing because stuff feels good. Stop just having sex with people because they look good. Stop just having babies with people because you like some kind of aspect about them. Like I was watching the video earlier, and the dude was like, he's he's part of the they got the different cliques, the Save Yourself Black Men group, and he's overseas, or he's got some lady across seas that he's funding her lifestyle. Like he mad at black women over here, but he over there funding somebody else's lifestyle. And it's like, I ain't telling nobody what to do. Once again, this is for people who only want to fix this and we like-minded. But if you in this group, you can't, there is no looking at these alternatives. There is no things. It's all right, we're gonna get down hardcore and we're gonna fix this. And we're gonna get with people that want to fix this, and we're gonna fix this. We're gonna take these critical looks and be honest with ourselves. Because if not, we bullshitting and we wasting each other's time.
Yeah, I think we gotta one of the things we gotta do with what she said was everybody's got to come to the table and let their guard down, and it's
Yeah.
actually one of the PAC's codes of conduct. We got to operate in good faith. When you hear somebody say something that is could be perceived as negative or critical of you, you got to make sure that you're looking at it from a standpoint of, okay, this is my brother or my sister. They want to see me be better. So let me not take this as an attack. Let me take it as a form of construction. And sometimes when you're doing construction, you got to knock a wall down before you can build it back better.
Right.
So I think that's one of the challenges we have there is anytime anybody gets in front of a camera and says anything bad, and in this situation, we're talking particularly about black women because that's who Shahrazad Ali is talking about. But we know that it's the same for a lot of men out there as well. But anytime anybody gets in front of a camera and says anything bad, regardless of intent, everybody starts to blast that person. And very few people sit back and look at the context of what they're saying and the intent of what they said. Was their intent to destroy or was it to help, to build? So I think those are two things that we're really going to have to learn how to master. And that requires a level of suspending your emotional responses. You're going to have to clamp down on those and really begin to reason and process and listen to understand instead of listening to
Right.
respond.
Right. Right. But I also think we need to go back to something we said a couple of weeks ago. And when we actually get to the point to where we're going to self-actualize and really construct an organic culture for ourselves, like our Black American culture that we construct for ourselves because we was able to self-actualize. So a lot of the behaviors that we have now, are we going to continue these behaviors? Can we even get to this point to where we are able to self-actualize with the behaviors that we have today?
No.
Because yeah, my answer would be no, because one of the things is the part that's detrimental in the behavior that we have is we're not trying, the majority of us are not trying to build. We're just trying to survive, and we just want to be left alone by white America, not understanding racial politics. Racism is a team sport, and if people see you as weak, they are going to conquer you. No matter how you feel about it, that's how the world works. If people see you as weak, they're going to conquer you. It's
Right.
always been like that. It's
And
always
so
been like that.
so one other thing I would add is one other thing I think that's critical to do, and this is something that I do talk about in the book. We've got to define our roles. That need like the we need to tear the cultural definitions of man, woman, husband, wife, father, son, mother, daughter, grandma, grandpa, auntie, uncle. All of those roles need to be torn down and redefined in a way
Right.
that's beneficial for the current situation that we're in. And this goes back to the conversation we had a few weeks ago where we were talking about how culture is typically something that just develops over time, but because of where we are in our situation in this current
We have to be
uh
intentional
time, we have to directly affect our cultural development with our
now.
intentions, because
Now.
it isn't our situation isn't a natural one, so we
Right.
can't allow natural processes to run their course. Otherwise we're going to face a lot of
Yeah.
undue hardship.
Yeah.
So I think that's one thing we got to do. And then the last point is, in redefining these cultural roles that we have, women are going to have to be open to men having a say and what it means to be a woman, and men are going to have to be open to women having a say and what it means to
Yeah.
be a man.
And,
That's going to have to
yeah.
happen because these two roles are dependent on each other. A man is not a man if he's not fulfilling the needs of a woman, and vice versa is also true. So we're going to have to get out of this silo that men define manhood. Not without the input of a woman, you don't.
Yeah. And we're also going to have to really put some thought into what we redefine our relationship to be in relationship roles and in the roles of the man and the woman. Because I don't see us going back to, I don't see a mass of women going back to not having jobs and not making their own money and things. And so, we talk a lot in our community, we talk a lot about traditional relationships, and we're in these modern times. And I don't see them. I see some women going back, but I don't see a mass of women going back. So with that being said, how do we take these new standards that we have and be able to help exist in a healthy manner and be able to cooperate? Because I still believe in every relationship and every team, you still have to have a leader. So how's that leader going to be cultivated? And is it really going to lead to something positive? Because it's going to have to change. Because how we look at traditional relationships, it's going to have to change. Because I just don't see a lot of these women going backwards and saying, I'm not going to make my own money anymore. So,
But let's, because I'll push back on that just a bit. I don't think we ever left traditional relationships from the standpoint of the practicality of the day to day. Black women have always worked. You know this. I know this.
right,
We've talked about this.
right,
I think what has changed is the mindset of the people in the relationship, but the realities of the relationship itself, for the most part, hasn't shifted. And so I would say that that mental change being met with the real world stagnation of it, and then there's the illusion or the belief that things used to be different. That's, I think, where we're running into
yeah,
problems, because black women have always worked. They've always made they've always made money, but that money was for the household. I think
right,
men in general in this society have faced an interesting world where all of the skills that would traditionally be associated with manhood can now be purchased, and they're considered necessities. Man will be responsible for building a home, providing safety, security, providing
right,
food,
right,
all of those things. You purchase them now, and the skills that a woman would typically bring to the table are considered luxury items. You know, your
right.
maids, your chefs, your cooks, your blah 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 blah. But in that, I think men have become in a way seen as replaceable because what they typically provide can be
Can be broke.
purchased.
Yeah,
So I think that's where it goes back to. Okay, I think it's the mentality that's changed. Now I don't need a man for protection because I can get a dog, I can get a gun, I can get this, I can get that. It's very like superficial in its thinking, and men are, a lot of men are saying the same thing.
Right.
So
I can
that's where I
purchase
go
a lot
back
of your
to.
stuff.
Right. That's where I go back to. I think it's a mentality shift. I still get what you're saying in terms of, all right, well, even if we're going back mentally, we're still like there's still a returning to an old way. I'm just clarifying
No,
for
I
people
get you.
that are
I get
listening
you.
that would say, well, what if we're going? I'm not gonna, you know what I'm saying? So that's all. I'm
Right.
done.
No, I get you. The mentality. I get you. All right. Let's move forward.
Now, that's all I'm saying, so everyone can look at themselves. Every man can look at his own woman. Everyone must study what slavery did to the black woman. We have never looked at it as an independent study.
May I ask you, on what do you base your information?
Just research. Being a black woman myself, living here in the country, and I interviewed over 3,000 people. I interviewed 379 black men who were married to or dating white women, over 100 black women who were married to or dating white men, and a little over 2,000 black men and over 1,000 black women. And what I found is that we don't have a control group. There was no point in me listing all of their names because we don't have one set of Negroes that we could point at and say, okay, well, this particular group is not affected by slavery.
So uh, for today, because I'm not, she was speaking in the 90s. I'm speaking for today.
Mm-hmm.
Slavery is the foundation of all stuff that's messed up. We know that. But what would you say had a greater effect on the declining of the black family? Slavery or like the Jim Crow welfare system that happened?
Um, this is actually something I touch on in my book, and I get hammered a lot when I make this statement, but I still stand by this statement because it's what my research has led me to. When it comes to the way that black people interact with each other, slavery was the foundation. Yes,
Mm-hmm.
we agree. Everybody agrees on that. Now we did carry some things forward, and I want to be real clear about this because I know I want everybody to hear this, and not just this piece, the whole thing. We did bring some negative traits over from the culture groups that we came over from in Africa. Let's not sit here and look at this thing on the rose-colored lenses and act like everything was all hunky-dory, amazing, great, fantastic
Right.
while we were there. So we
Right.
brought some things over. But slavery was the foundation. After slavery ended, when you really go back and look at the time period from the end of the Civil War to the end of Reconstruction, what you find is black families reuniting, black communities being built, and the
Right.
relationship between black men and black women seemingly strong. And then in everything that happened post Reconstruction with the black codes, Jim Crow, and all of that other stuff, that seems to me to be where the bulk of the damage was
Yeah.
done.
Well, that's why I'm asking, because I hear what she's saying, and I do agree that we have to look at what slavery did and how that plays into how we relate to each other. But I think for now in 2022, not in the 90s, but in 2022, we also have to look at, like you say, post Reconstruction. We have to look at everything: the crack epidemic, the Joe Biden law, the '94 crime bill, looking at the welfare state, redlining, all those things. We have to look at all of that, because coming out of slavery and until like the 1960, 1965, the black family was still together. 80% of black people were married. 80% of the adults were married. And then we see the declining of those numbers from 1965 till now. And so that's why I'm saying, just for today, for what we are today, yes, look at slavery. Yes, look at everything that slavery did to us. Look at what slavery did to the black woman. Look at what slavery did to the black man. But look at what everything else after slavery did to us as well. Because I think for today, if you don't look at that, your picture will be incomplete, and you won't be able to really pinpoint some of the things that lead to our bad behavior and our bad relationships today. That's what
Right,
I
right.
think.
No, I agree with that. I think like if you don't, and this is where I agree with you. You got to look at the whole thing, right? Slavery was the foundation, so we can say without the foundation, things would be totally different. But the foundation is only one piece, and most of the time, you don't even really see the foundation of a structure. All you see is all of the things built on top of it. So we understand that without that foundation, none of these other issues would matter.
Right.
But when you're looking at a 60-story skyscraper and you're looking at the problem on floor 55, it'd be silly to ignore the 54 floors below it and only look at the foundation and think that you can identify the problem on floor 55. No, you got to go through all of the other floors as
Right.
well.
Right.
So that's I
Yeah.
agree with that.
Yeah. I mean, because post Reconstruction had a massive the things that white people did post Reconstruction had a massive effect on how we look at each other, how we think about each other today. We have black
Propaganda.
men, we have black men saying that they don't like black women, and we got black women saying that they don't like black men. This is I want to say in mass today. I don't want to overstate it, but it's a good number of black people, both men and women, saying that.
I would say
I'm not
it's a mess. Go ahead.
okay, but I can't go back and say post pre 1960 that a lot of black people was feeling like that toward each other. We understood better that we needed each other then.
Yeah, the statistics that we can find, anyways. Again, it's something that I mentioned in the book. The statistics that we can find don't show the type of numbers and the type of behavior that we're seeing today.
Right.
And it goes back to the propaganda show that we did, where and even what we were talking about before this break. When you see when perception becomes reality, you begin to act like it's true, and it becomes true through the behaviors. Um, and just think about the change in the image. When black people were in slavery, they were viewed as childlike, innocent, they hard workers. They had a lot of these positive and like
Yeah.
um
Yeah.
not
Passive aggressive
positive
shit.
but not bad. Like, yeah, like
Yeah.
they had some real funky labels for black people in America.
But it still happening
Immature
for
and
us today.
disrespectful. But it's changed now, because you look at it now. A black man back then, black men and black women back then were viewed as hard workers and almost innocent, like childlike, devious or mischievous, but not malicious, because it wasn't believed that they had the intelligence to negatively plan something with ill intent. But then you look at the change in the way black people were looked at after slavery, and all of a sudden, everything that even could remotely be viewed as positive was stripped
It's negative.
away.
Yeah.
Now we're not viewed as hard workers anymore. We're not viewed as loyal anymore. We're not viewed as, and I'm not even talking about by the dominant society. I'm talking about by other
But
black people.
yeah, but we still view as childlike though. They
We
still
are
view us as
still,
childlike.
well, no, there's a difference. See, we're not viewed as childlike. We're viewed as childish. Those have two
Yeah,
different
I agree.
connotations on them.
I agree. I agree.
So everything has kind of shifted. We're no longer innocently mischievous or innocently devious.
It's
Now we're malicious. We're
you bad
evil.
little kids.
We're nefarious.
Yeah.
Right? We're demon spawn. Like those. So you think about all those connotations and the impact that they have on the group that's constantly being beat over the head with them. And then you begin to look at how they begin to interact with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. You see, voila, here we are. So let's go.
Well, this particular group is not affected by slavery. All of us are affected by it. We just have not been able to identify the manifestation of that behavior and be able to trace it back to what the root was and how we got that way. A lot of the behavior we practice because it's trendy, it's popular in this country, and so we think that that's just the thing to do.
Do you fault the black man for anything?
Yes, absolutely.
Just real quick, talking about trendy behavior. Because social media.
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be real. Like you trendy behavior had black people walking up to the top of milk crates, about to break their necks, to trend, to actually trend on social media. So we're trying to become and follow trends. Like trends are running our lives now. And trendy behavior, hey, well, I'm going to have sex with as many people that I don't care about as possible because it's trendy. And somebody said it was okay to do it. And now I'm going to do it. I'm going to put these miles on my body, whether male or female. I'm going to put these miles on my body. Hey, I'm even possibly make children that I don't want or I can't take care of because of trendy behavior. Because somebody said it's okay. That's not okay. That's not okay. We have to stop chasing trends. Create
Yeah.
our create our own trends that actually help us and uplift us rather than trying to be famous and trying to go viral, especially nowadays.
Yeah, and that's one of the things. I was reading a book, I forget the name of it, but it was written back in the late 80s or the late 1880s, not 1980s. But it was written by a black scholar, and he was talking about the ingrained traits versus the innate traits in black Americans. And talking about what traits are a part of our genetic core and what traits we've acquired from being here. And I think our propensity for social status and social media is one of those innate things that we brought with us that we're really going to struggle to deal with. The one trend I saw recently that really bothered me was the "Will your kid have your back" trend, where
Yeah, I did not like that. Oh, I didn't like
where
that.
they were
That's
traumatizing their kids, talking about, I'm finna go fight the lady next door, and I need you to take out their kid if they jump in the fight.
hey, and being real, all the videos that I saw except one, I seen the compilation of about 20 videos, all of them that I saw, but one were women. And that not all black women, but it was women, but it was still black women involved, but it was women doing that.
Well, I
That's
didn't see any
inappropriate
dudes
behavior.
doing it either. I did
I
not.
saw
I'll
just
be honest
one
about
dad.
that.
I just saw one, but even him, that's inappropriate behavior, man. Come
Yeah,
on, man.
yeah, and that's exactly what I'm. So the social media thing, I think we've got to. Because why don't the positive trends blow up?
Because we're wired to be entertained.
And positive shit just ain't entertaining, huh?
Right.
I got you.
Right. Right. It's like I put out a video Monday, Dr. Amos Wilson, and he started off talking about like we've basically been conditioned like Pavlov conditioned his dog,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to be accepted. We want to
Right.
be a part of the larger society. We want white people to look at us favorable, but we think the behavioral patterns and the things that we need to take is going to get us the acceptance that we want, but we don't see that those things are driving a wedge further apart between black men and black women. Like we're not we're not doing good. We're not doing good as individuals, and we're not doing good as a collective. Especially as a collective, we're not doing good. Because once again, racism is a team sport, and as a team, we losing.
But I think that's one of the things that drives us. I think that's one of the things that goes back to what we were saying earlier, where we got to have intention behind the development of our culture, because if we allow things to go their natural course and we're in an unnatural situation, it's not going to go
It's going to
well.
degrade.
i don't I don't even know that white people, I do think white people conditioned us, but I think when you study group psychology, unless there is a very strong counterculture flowing through a group of people, the natural inclination is for all people in lesser groups to gain access to the power that's
Yeah,
available in mainstream groups, in
right.
the major group. And that's just a human nature thing, because being a part of the powerful group provides safety and comfort. Those things are needed for survival. So in our situation, that means acquiescing and becoming what white people expect us to become. So either we become, so there's two ways we go about this. Either we become more like them, which you see that a lot in terms of the white intellectual class and I'm sorry, the black intellectual class, the
Mm-hmm.
black bourgeoisie doing their best to become tan versions of white people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or you see it in the quote unquote hood class becoming what white people expect them to be. And we see this with a lot of the music, a lot of the hip hop, where you know a lot of these guys got a lot of good sense, made good grades in school, they got a lot of sense. They don't talk like that, they don't act like that, but they got to put on the front. And I believe it was Jadakiss said this, because white people are the ones that's buying the albums.
Yep.
You know,
Yeah, he
you
did.
black people, you ain't gonna go platinum off of hood buys only. You need white people to go platinum. You need white people to make money in music. That means white people want to slum it. That means you become the slum that they slum it in.
Our
Listening to your
degradation.
music.
Our degradation is their entertainment.
Right. But I agree, like to take it back to what she said, we do need to do a study of the way slavery and all of the things that followed slavery impacted men and women separately and together, and
Yeah.
children too, for that matter.
Yeah. Yeah. Because there is no I love when she said there is no control group. There is no control group because we all been affected. There's no black person in America who's around now who hasn't been affected by this. So yeah. So let's go ahead and let it finish up. Then we're gonna get to closing this thing out, get to these solutions, or continue with more solutions.
Yes, absolutely. I
Briefly,
fought him
what?
for lying.
For lying?
Yes.
About?
All kinds of things. He won't tell us the truth about his life because he knows that we can't handle the truth. And so he will lie to us about his activities and his life because it preserves the peace for him, he thinks. But we know that lies don't build a relationship. They create doubt, suspicion, and fear. And then we exhibit those behavior traits. And fear in the female is always translated as hostility. And so, see, it's a locked-in circle that I'm trying to get us to look at, how these things are connected and what they produce.
So us men, we talk a lot, and one of the things that we do talk about is not being able to be totally honest with our black women, because exactly like she said, we don't believe that they're mature enough to handle our pain and our issues and our problems, because the main thing that usually happens is our issues get used as a weapon when they get mad at us, or when they want to embarrass us or make us look bad, or just talk down on us. Whatever's going on with you, that's supposed to be sacred, and you're not supposed to try to use against me. It's being used against us. And so the question is from there then is, okay, do we ever get to a point to where we can trust black women with our pain and our issues? And if so, what are the first steps, or what steps period can we take to be able to get to that point? Because we need to be able to get to that point. We need to be able to trust them fully, and they need to be able to trust us fully.
I think two things. One of the things that she hit on, I think, is something that's very important for black men to understand, especially with the growing number of men that are very discontent with the black women that they've been running into, and that are starting these channels and these movements and all of that, talking about leave black women alone. What she said, I've heard from countless psychologists and therapists and counselors, and I've read in countless books on psychology. Um, the way that fear is expressed is hostility a good chunk of the times for women in American society. I can only speak to women in American society because I haven't read books about women in other societies. Not enough for me to feel as strongly about them as I do this. And so uh, we got to understand that the hostility that we're feeling, that we're sensing, that we're picking up from an expression of their fear. What are they afraid of? That's something that you got to figure out with that individual woman. But it is an expression of fear. Now, can men get to a place where we can share with women? I think we can, but I think it's going to take a few brave souls, like it always has, to continue
To put it out there.
to put it out there and be willing to get their feelings hurt in the process. But as they get their feelings hurt, I think this is where the change comes. Um, it can't be made okay to use a man's soft points
Right.
against him.
Right. Right.
That's where other women have to step in and say that's not cool, and they
Right.
can't say it behind her back or say it to their male friends or say it in all these other
They have
circles
to,
where
they
that
have to,
woman isn't present. You
they
got
got
to
to
say
hold her
it to
accountable.
her.
She got to be held accountable for that.
And that's one of the things I can say. I don't know if women are doing it or not. I can't say that I know, but I can say that that's something men have been doing because I've been a part, seen, heard of several groups of men that do that to each other. Bruh,
Hmm.
that's not cool.
Right.
That's not this. That's not this. And I think that's one of the reasons why a lot of men are starting to get their shit together, are starting to, focus on being a better dad. According to the CDC report, we got that
We
kind
the
of locked
best
down.
dads. We the best
Um,
dads in America.
Right. So I think that now the narratives ain't caught up to the progress, but the stats have. So I think that's going to be one of the biggest challenges is exactly what she pointed out in this thing, holding women accountable, and that's going to have to start with other women. It's going to have to start with parents as well, but that's another.
Yeah, I
Mhm.
think one of the biggest issues is that very, very extremely loud minority of
Mhm.
black women who are not interested in building with black men and being with black men, who are not interested in making sure that black America is strong in the future. They're extremely loud out there. And so they right now are controlling the narratives, and they are controlling
Mhm.
the image of black women. And I do believe that we don't see enough of the good black women. We don't see enough of the positive black women because they are a silent majority. And they, like you say, they're going to have to stand up because, yes, black men are continuing to talk. Black men need to talk. Black men, we need to talk in our safe spaces with other men. We need to talk in public. We need to be able to talk with our women. But the I don't agree that black people and white people need to sit down and have a conversation about race, because white people just need to choose not to be racist. But
I agree with that.
I do think that black men and black women, we got to talk.
We
We
do.
have to have real critical conversations. When you are courting somebody, we need to get back to courting. We need to get back to courting. We need to get back to the point to where we're making sure that we are involving our families in the process of us um, seeing if this person would be marriageable. We need to involve family, loved ones, whoever the the intelligent people that we have in our lives. We do need to start incorporating that more into what we're doing. But it's like really having real conversations, asking real questions, asking the tough questions in that courting process before you get into a relationship, before you have sex, before you decide to get married to somebody. Because what I see from, especially from black men, I see a lot of black men who they they didn't vet the woman properly, or even if they did, they ignored a lot of red flags
Mhm.
because she was fine or she was thick or the sex was good. And then when you get married, now you complaining about the quality of woman that you ignored who she was the whole time. But you married her and she got your kids now.
Mhm. Amen.
You can't get mad at the alligator for being an alligator now.
Yeah,
It
right.
was your job to vet it.
Right.
So we got
Right.
to change that in itself has to change. What's the quality? What's the quality of life you really want? Right. And does that quality of life contribute to the overall upliftment and empowerment and the betterment of Black America?
Right. I think another thing too, um, she talked about lying and no relationship can be built on a foundation of lies. And I think she was talking specifically about men lying. And we from that context, Joe and I talked about it, but we've got to be honest. Everybody has to be honest in this situation, men and women. We've got to be honest with ourselves, with our friends, and truly expect them to hold us accountable.
Right.
Um, and we got to stop big up in foolishness. You
Yes.
know, and even with that, right? Let me say this one thing too. When you, because I agree wholeheartedly with the movement of showing more positive black men and women, but I think we need to show more variety of positive too.
Yes.
Being a black woman with a master's degree and a high paying job,
Ain't the
the,
only image of positive.
right? Like, what about the stay at home mom? That's cool with being a stay at home mom and it's damn happy doing that.
Which
That's a
which is
positive black woman.
which is a very, 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 very important position to have.
Right. And but nobody we don't see that image a whole lot. Well, I can't think of a single time. Well, we've really seen the image of a black stay-at-home mom that was happy being a stay-at-home mom. Um, so what about that image? You know, and even with black men, it's always either the athlete, the thug, or the square. There are a lot of shapes in between those three points that could all be. I mean, I've met some what you would call good thugs. They not thugs. They dress in a way that you would think they're a thug, but they solid dudes. They just dress how they dress. You know what I'm
Mhm.
saying? So what about those people? So I think we need to show the full gamut of
The
what it
everyday,
means.
the everyday black
Everyday
person.
positive black people, because right now everybody's telling black women period, um you got time to start a family in America anyways. uh go get your career in order, go get this in order. What about the young lady that don't want all of that? All she want to do is have kids, but we telling her
And
that
be a
that's a
mother,
wrong thing
be
to
a
do.
wife. Right. Which is not
So
wrong.
there's
Like
nothing
that,
wrong with that.
like we women need to be, we need wives and mothers. So now I would say this: we have to be intentional about self-actualization. We have to be intentional about being a strong nation. And being intentional in that is going to translate to you being intentional in how you just carry yourself in your everyday life, which is also going to translate in you being intentional in how you relate to people, especially romantically. So you're going to be intentional about what you're doing with that young lady or that young man. So you're going to choose your, which means you're going to choose the best partner for you, and you all are going to be adults, and once again use the word again, be intentional about how you go about relating to each other and what you are honestly and realistically building. What's your end goal as a group, as a couple? What's your goal as a couple? And your goal as a couple, how does that goal as a couple translate or even help our overall goal as black people in America? Are y'all just on your own thing in the silo, or are you all relating to each other as two healthy adults, as healthy as possible, to be able to contribute to the upliftment? Because like we said before, how you all conduct yourself and act in your household does affect everybody else around you.
Mm-hmm.
It does affect everybody else around you. So
Mm-hmm.
the young lady or the young man that you're with, are y'all just out here just messing around? Are y'all trying to build something seriously? Because we're at this point to where we have to be building something seriously. We have to have real relationships. We have to have real intentional relationships. We have to redefine and reconfigure how we exist. That's like me and you have been doing, especially with the groups of young men that we've been able to come across and be able to teach. I'm so adamant about young men by having penis control, about not
Yeah,
just going around here just knocking everything down. Just
absolutely.
get you a good woman and settle down. I'm so adamant about it because I wasn't taught it. I wasn't taught it, and I saw what it did to me, and I had to change my perception. I had to change everything of how I saw the world and I saw women. Like I was seeing women through the same eyes, and I was seeing myself in the world through the same eyes as everybody else who had that low individual, that low collective self-esteem. I had to have a whole reconfiguring of my whole mindset so I can first of all love myself adequately.
Mm-hmm.
And once I was able to love myself adequately, now I have something to give somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Cause I'm so serious about family. I'm so serious about uh having a wife and having a good wife with me, and she holding me down and I'm holding her down, and we doing our thing. And out of this union, we're able to help so many other people. That's what I'm adamant about. Like the young lady I'm talking to, we talk about it all the time. We talk about it all the time. And, the conversation we was having a couple of days ago, she understands that my intention and my thing is about it's my overall goal is black people being better. And so I'm saying it like this, and I didn't say it like this, and she don't get it like this, but it's like I know his goal has nothing to do with me, so I'm gonna either be down with it or not. Because at the end of the day, he gonna be down with whoever is the best person for him to be down with that help contribute to this goal. And so she down with me, so we ride and we intentional about our shit. And I think everybody needs to be like that. Don't be like me. Be the best like you. Be the best version of you, but be intentional about what you build, and we can get somewhere.
Yeah, and I'll say this and then shut up. That also requires that people stop telling young people to be stupid because they're young. Because that's something that's like we both passionate about dick control, penis control. We're both passionate about that. I was fortunate enough to be raised with that in mind, so I don't have a lot of the same issues that a lot of other people have. But I did hear a fair amount, and I saw other people, and I'm still seeing it with all of the youths I work with now. People saying you're young, you're supposed to go out there and experiment and
Right.
and explore. And no, you're not. That translates to go be stupid because you young, and then spend your early to mid 30s, your late 20s, early to
Trying to
mid
fix
30s,
yourself.
trying to fix all of the shit you messed up when you was being young and exploring. Stop telling kids that
We could,
when
we
you're
could,
young, you're supposed to be figuring out what you want to do, where you want to go, and how you want to get there.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Stop. I agree. Stop telling them we got time to mess up. No, we don't. No, we don't. Black people, we don't
Right,
have time
right,
to mess up. We
right.
don't. We
And
don't.
that's right. In the
Right.
black community, we talking about us specifically.
We
We
don't. We
don't
don't.
have time for our kids to waste
But
5, 6, 7, 8 years of their life.
but if we related to each other better, we wouldn't give our kids those messages, and they would have better examples to see. And they would, because a lot of time, let's just be real, we hear what they say, we hear what they're saying. A lot of these young folk are saying that they are afraid to love and to be with other black people because of what they've witnessed from the adults. Let's just be real. All right, so adults, the kids have spoken. Let's get our shit together. Start by looking in the mirror, like always. Start with me, but let's get our shit together.
You know why they say that? All right. I'm gonna shut up after this one for
Go ahead.
real. And actually, no, I'm gonna say something else. This is for the pushback for people that would say, "Well, it wasn't until I was in my 40s and 50s that I really figured out what I wanted to do." That don't mean that it would have took you until you was 40 or 50 to figure out what you wanted to do if you had really started thinking about that as a teenager. When you just blowing with the wind all of your life, you don't notice that the wind is carrying you until you put your feet down. And then you can look around and see where you want to go with intentions. I've known what I wanted to do all my life. And I'm not the only person. I know several other people that were raised up to be intentional about living life. Not saying I was raised to be intentional about living life. I've just known what I wanted to do all my life. But I've known people that were raised to be intentional about living life. And they're in their 30s, 40s, and in one case, 50s now.
Thrive.
And they not going through these midlife crises. They didn't have this period of having to find themselves. They know who they were and they knew who they were. That doesn't mean they didn't grow and develop. They still did that, but they were able to miss a lot of the mistakes and a lot of the shortcomings and pitfalls that a lot of the rest of us who got told to go explore run into. That's all I'm
Yeah.
saying.
Well, going back to what I said earlier, that adults got to do better. Adults got to create better environments. Adults have to be more intentional about pouring into the kids. If we relate to each other better, we can stay together and we can create better environments so our children won't have to get it out the mud or start thinking or just be blowing through the wind, blowing with the wind and going through life. You can actually have some structure from a young age because my parents were there and they gave me that structure in a healthy environment. That's all we pushing for. Patrick Irvin, Joseph Ward. This is On the Shoulders of James. www.ontheshoulders1.com, patreon.com/OTSOG. Hey, we love y'all. Thank y'all for rocking with us and catch the next video that's coming up. Peace out.